People finally slow down, they write things out, they feel lighter, and then a week later they say, I don't know how, but I'm right back where I started. Now, that can feel discouraging, like clarity is fragile or temporary. But here's the reframe. Mental clutter doesn't come from randomness. It comes from patterns. And unless you understand those patterns, clutter will keep regenerating, no matter how many planners, apps, or productivity tools you use. Welcome to the Personal Mastery and Growth Podcast, where we explore the keys to unlocking your full potential and living your best life. I'm your host, Jose Johnson. Whether you're looking to make a breakthrough, overcome a challenge, or simply live with greater clarity, joy, and purpose, you'll find the tools and inspirations you need right here. So let's start your journey towards personal mastery and growth right now. Welcome back to the Personal Mastery and Growth Podcast, your go-to resource for practical tips, insightful research, and inspiring stories to help you unlock your full potential. I'm your host, Jose Johnson, and I'm an expert in the fields of mindfulness, mindset, and peak performance, and I'm so excited to have you here with me today. Now, in the last episode, we talked about why your brain feels tired and how mental clutter quietly drains your energy, even when you're not physically busy. Now, today, we're going to take that conversation one step deeper, because once people recognize mental clutter, the next question is almost always the same. Why does this keep coming back? You clear your head, you feel better for a day or two, and then somehow the clutter returns. So let's talk about where mental clutter actually comes from and why it's so persistent. So here's something that I see all the time in coaching and leadership work. People finally slow down, they write things out, they feel lighter, and then a week later they say, I don't know how, but I'm right back where I started. Now, that can feel discouraging, like clarity is fragile or temporary. But here's the reframe. Mental clutter doesn't come from randomness. It comes from patterns. And unless you understand those patterns, clutter will keep regenerating, no matter how many planners, apps, or productivity tools you use. So let's start with the brain. Your brain is wired to notice what's unfinished. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, the tendency for uncompleted tasks to stay active in your mind longer than completed ones. Now, from an evolutionary standpoint, that makes perfect sense. Unfinished, well, that meant important. Loose ends, that meant risk. But in modern life, that wiring creates overload. Every unresolved email, every undecided conversation, every I'll deal with that later, they all stay mentally open. Your brain keeps tugging on them, not because you're failing, but because it's trying to help. The problem is when everything is open, well, nothing ever fully closes. Now, here's where this gets more personal. Some mental clutter isn't about tasks at all. It's about identity. Things like, but I'm the responsible one. People rely on me. Or I should be able to handle this. Or if I don't do it, it won't get done right. Now, these identities create invisible obligations. You don't just carry what you choose, you carry what feels tied to who you believe you are. And the tricky part? Well, these identities are often formed for good reasons. They help you to succeed. They help you to become a leader. They help you to survive. But over time, they can quietly overload your mental bandwidth. Some clutter isn't about what's on your list. It's about who you think you're supposed to be. Now, there's another source of mental clutter that people never account for: emotional residue. Unspoken conversations, things you wish you had said, expectations you didn't agree to, but you feel responsible for them, moments that didn't sit right, but never got fully resolved. Look, your brain doesn't distinguish between a task and an emotional loose end. Both take up space. And this is why your brain can feel crowded even when your calendar isn't full. You're not just managing logistics, you're carrying emotional weight. If you're competent, reliable, or capable, here's an uncomfortable truth. Clutter finds you faster. People tend to ask you more. Things land on you. Responsibility gravitates towards you. And over time, capability can quietly turn into overload. So here's a line worth remembering. Just because something lands on your plate doesn't mean that it belongs to you. Without clarity, high performers become default containers for everything. And that is absolutely exhausting. Now, this is an important moment because this is where a lot of people turn inward and start blaming themselves. They think, I just need more discipline. I need to be more organized. I should be better at managing this. But mental clutter is not a discipline problem, and it's not a motivation problem, and it's not a willpower problem. It's a systems and awareness problem. Your brain is doing exactly what it's designed to do, to track unfinished business, to hold unresolved decisions, to monitor potential risks, to keep responsibilities top of mind. So the issue isn't that your brain is broken. The issue is that modern life gives your brain far more input than it was ever meant to manage internally. So unless you change the system, what you capture, what you clarify, what you close, and what you consciously release, your brain will keep recreating the same clutter patterns. Now, this is why trying harder doesn't work. You don't fix overload with effort. You fix it with design. And clarity is a design skill. Now, here's where most productivity advice gets it backwards. It jumps straight to action. Do this, fix that, add this habit, use this tool. But action without awareness just creates better managed clutter. Before you change what you do, you have to understand what keeps pulling you back into the same mental state. That's why awareness is so powerful. Awareness slows the loop. It creates space between stimulus and response. It lets you see patterns instead of just reacting to pressure. So when you can say, oh, this is where my mental clutter actually comes from, you stop fighting yourself and you start working with your mind instead of against it. Clarity doesn't come from control. It comes from insight. Hey, let me pause for just a moment, because if this episode is hitting close to home, I want to share something with you. When I catch myself feeling mentally tired or scattered, I don't try to push harder or power through it anymore. I step back and I get clear. And that's exactly why I created the Clarity and Leverage Planning Kit. It's the same process that I'm using right now to architect my own year so that I'm not just busy, but intentional. It helps me get everything out of my head, see what actually matters, and focus my energy where it will make the biggest difference. Now, there's nothing complicated or overwhelming about it. It's designed to reduce mental clutter, not add to it. So if you want to apply what we're talking about in this episode to your own life or work, you can find the kit at josejohnson.com/clarity. All right, let's jump back in. So let me walk you through a slightly deeper reflection that you can use, not to solve everything, but to change how you relate to mental clutter. Start with this question. What kind of things tend to create mental clutter for me over and over again? Not what's loud today, what's recurring. Then ask yourself, is it decisions that I keep postponing? Is it conversations that I avoid having? Is it a role that I over-identify with? Is it an expectation I never consciously agreed to? Is it saying yes when I already feel stretched? All right. Now, go one layer deeper and ask yourself, what belief about myself keeps recreating this? Beliefs like, I'm responsible for keeping everything running. If I don't do it, it won't get done right. I should be able to handle this. I don't want to let people down. Now, this isn't about judging those beliefs. They probably helped you succeed at some point. But here's the shift. Just because a belief once served you doesn't mean it still deserves full control over your mental energy. Clarity begins when you question the assumptions that you've been operating under automatically. And once you see the patterns, you have options. You can choose differently. You can respond instead of react. You can design boundaries instead of carrying everything internally. And that's how clutter starts losing its grip. So if you've noticed that mental clutter keeps coming back, I want you to hear this. You're not failing, you're not disorganized, and you're not doing life wrong. You're just operating inside patterns that were never designed to protect your clarity. And clarity, unlike willpower, is something you can practice. Now, that's what this From Clutter to Clarity series is really all about. And if you want to apply what we're talking about in these episodes to your own life or your work, the Clarity and Leverage Planning Kit gives you a simple step-by-step process to help you identify what truly matters, where your leverage is, and what no longer deserves your mental energy. It's designed to help you move forward with intention without burning yourself out. And you can find it at josejohnson.com/clarity. And if this episode resonated, please consider sharing it with someone who might be feeling overwhelmed or mentally overloaded. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. So until next time, remember, it is what it is, but it becomes what you make it. So make it great. Thanks for tuning in. Before we wrap up, I just want to remind you that the information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or treatment. While the content of this podcast is based on research and personal experience, everyone's situation is unique, and the advice given may not be applicable to all. Always consult a qualified professional before making significant changes in your life. The Personal Mastery and Growth podcast is recorded at the So Good Media Studios located in the Candy Factory, a co-working space in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.